That Washington quarter in your pocket could be worth thousands of dollars. Some quarters from 1965, 1970, or 1983 have rare mint errors that collectors are paying a fortune for. Check your coins now, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next rare coin alert. In 1978, the United States Mint was deep in the business of producing billions of coins for circulation, ensuring that every American had change in their pocket for daily life. Among the many denominations minted that year, the Washington quarter stood out as one of the most recognized and widely used coins in the country. With the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse and the majestic bald eagle on the reverse, it was a coin that symbolized both American history and everyday practicality. But that same year, something unexpected happened at the mint. A small batch of 1978 Washington quarters left the presses with critical minting errors. These mistakes, unnoticed at the time, have turned some of these coins into highly sought-after treasures worth small fortunes today. Some have even fetched prices ranging from $52,000 to $140,000 at auctions, depending on the severity and rarity of the error. The 1978 Washington quarter is composed of a copper-nickel clad, a blend designed for durability and to reduce production costs after the switch from silver coins in the 1960s. This was the standard composition for most quarters by the late 1970s. But even with modern minting technology, perfection was never guaranteed. During the minting process that year, certain mechanical mishaps resulted in errors like double strikes, off-center impressions, broad strikes, and even a few rare transitional planchet errors. These unusual variations escaped detection during quality control, finding their way into circulation and, decades later, into the hands of collectors who would pay astonishing sums for them. One of the most famous types of errors found in the 1978 quarters is the double die error. This happens when the die that strikes the design onto the blank coin receives two misaligned impressions from the master hub. The result is a subtle but noticeable doubling in certain areas of the coin's design, often around the inscriptions like Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date 1978. Some examples show an almost shadow-like effect around the letters, while others display clear doubling visible to the naked eye. The more pronounced the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes. Another sought-after mistake is the off-center strike. This type of error occurs when the coin blank or planchet isn't properly aligned under the die during striking. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted, leaving a wide blank crescent of metal along one edge. Depending on how off-center the strike is, the coin can become significantly more valuable. For instance, a 1978 Washington quarter with a 15% off-center strike might bring in a few $100s, but one with a 40% or greater misalignment, especially if the date is still visible, can easily reach tens of thousands at auction. In one notable case, an off-center 1978 quarter graded MS-66 by PCGS sold for nearly $78,000 at a Heritage Auctions event in 2020. Its rarity and pristine condition caught the attention of seasoned collectors who recognized its importance. That same year, another example featuring a broad strike error, where the collar that normally holds the metal in place failed, causing the coin to spread slightly outward during striking, fetched $52,000 in a private sale. But the record-breaking sale came in 2022 when a collector paid an incredible $140,000 for a unique double-die 1978 Washington quarter, whose doubling on the obverse lettering was so bold and perfectly preserved that experts described it as the best of its kind ever discovered. Collectors also prize transitional errors, which occur when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or year. A few 1978 quarters have been discovered struck on planchets meant for dimes, resulting in lighter and slightly smaller coins. Others were struck on copper planchets intended for foreign coins, adding another layer of intrigue to their story. These mistakes are exceedingly rare because the minting process is designed to prevent such mix-ups, making any verified example worth thousands of dollars. What makes these coins even more fascinating is how they often go unnoticed for years. Many of them entered circulation, used for coffee purchases, gas, and vending machines, before anyone noticed their oddities. Imagine holding one of these coins in your hand in 1978, unaware that decades later, it could be worth more than a luxury car. In fact, some of these rare quarters have been found in loose change boxes, coin jars, and inherited collections by people who had no idea of their hidden value. One collector from Texas recounted how he found a slightly off-center 1978 quarter while sorting through his late father's old coin rolls. He thought it looked a bit odd and decided to have it evaluated. To his amazement, the coin was authenticated by NGC as an off-center strike with near-mint luster. It sold at auction for $66,000, enough to pay off his college loans. Stories like this have fueled public interest in searching for error coins, turning everyday pocket change into a potential treasure hunt. The Washington quarter itself carries a deep legacy in U.S. coinage. Introduced in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday, it became so popular that it replaced the standing Liberty quarter permanently. By 1978, the design had become an American classic, with the familiar image of Washington's profile by sculptor John Flanagan. The reverse still displayed the powerful eagle with outstretched wings, perched upon arrows and surrounded by olive branches, a symbol of America's strength and peace. For collectors, coins from this era are reminders of a period when the country's coinage still reflected both artistry and heritage, even in everyday denominations. Errors like the ones found in the 1978 quarters add a layer of uniqueness that standard coins simply can't replicate. Each error tells a story of what went wrong during production. A jammed die, a misaligned press, or a planchet from the wrong metal batch. These small imperfections have captured the imaginations of collectors for generations. Today, with grading companies like PCGS and NGC verifying and authenticating such coins, the market for error quarters has exploded. A coin that once slipped unnoticed through daily transactions can now make headlines at major numismatic events. In one auction hosted by Stax Bowers in 2021. An extraordinary 1978 quarter with a major off-center strike and full visible date sold for $94,500. What made this coin particularly appealing was not just the severity of the error but also its incredible state of preservation. Graded MS67 with full luster. The coin appeared as though it had been struck only yesterday, a rare find for any piece that's over 4 decades old. The excitement in the numismatic community around these discoveries continues to grow, inspiring more people to examine their spare change carefully. While many people think rare coins must be ancient to be valuable, the 1978 Washington quarter proves that modern errors can be just as desirable. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that tell a story, and nothing tells a story quite like an error that slipped through the cracks of one of the world's most precise minting systems. These coins are like small pieces of accidental history, moments frozen in metal that remind us that even machines make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes become treasures. If you happen to come across a 1978 quarter, take a closer look. Examine the lettering, the edges, and the date. If something seems unusual, perhaps a doubling in the text, a shift in the image, or an odd shape around the rim, you might just be holding one of those rare minting errors that can transform an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. Even after decades, these coins continue to appear in circulation from time to time, often overlooked by those unaware of their potential value. For collectors and casual finders alike, the thrill of discovery is what keeps the passion for numismatics alive. The possibility that a simple quarter could be worth between $52,000 and $140,000 makes searching for these hidden gems all the more exciting. So next time you empty your pockets, pay attention to the quarters that fall into your hand. Because within that familiar silver tone might lie a piece of American minting history, one that connects past and present, ordinary and extraordinary, and perhaps even changes your fortune forever. In 1965, something extraordinary happened at the U.S. Mint, something that today continues to spark fascination among coin collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. The Washington quarter from that year might seem like an ordinary coin, one of millions that passed through countless hands. But for those who look closely, certain 1965 quarters tell a very different story. A story of transition, error, and incredible value. Some of these coins, with rare minting mistakes, have sold at auction for astonishing prices, ranging from $60,000 to as much as $146,000. And the best part is, many of these treasures were found in the most unexpected places: old jars, drawers, and even in everyday pocket change. The year 1965 was a pivotal one for the U.S. Mint. It marked the end of an era, the final goodbye to silver circulating coins. Prior to that year, Quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But due to the rising cost of silver and a nationwide coin shortage, the government made a drastic change. They replaced the silver composition with a copper-nickel clad structure, which is the standard we know today. This transition, however, was not without complications. During this switch, a number of errors slipped through the cracks, resulting in some 1965 quarters being accidentally struck on the old silver planchets meant for 1964 coins. These are the coins that collectors dream of finding, the rare silver 1965 Washington quarters. The difference may be subtle to the untrained eye, but it's worth a fortune to those who know what to look for. The normal 1965 quarter should have a copper-nickel layer, visible as a brownish edge when you look at the coin's side. However, the error quarters struck on silver planchets lack that copper edge. They also have a slightly lighter color and weigh a bit less, about 6.25 grams compared to the standard 5.67 grams. That small difference in weight can make all the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and one worth more than $60,000. One of the most famous examples of this error was discovered in the 1970s by a collector who noticed that his 1965 quarter didn't have the usual copper edge. After weighing it and confirming it was struck on a silver planchet, he sent it to be authenticated. The coin was later sold for over $75,000 at a major heritage auctions event. In another remarkable case, a 1965 Washington quarter struck on a silver planchet in mint condition, graded MS66 by PCGS, reached a record-breaking $132,000 in a 2019 Stax Bowers auction. But not all 1965 error quarters are silver. Some feature striking anomalies caused by mechanical issues during production. One of the more notable examples is the double die obverse error, where parts of the coin's design, like the word Liberty or In God We Trust, appear doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. These coins are visually stunning, and collectors love the distinct doubling that makes each one unique. A 1965 double die quarter, well preserved and verified, can easily fetch between $10,000 and $30,000, but in exceptional cases with strong doubling and high mint grades, they have reached prices close to $80,000. There are also 1965 quarters with off-center strikes, meaning the coin blank wasn't properly aligned when struck. This causes part of the design to be missing or shifted to one side. The more dramatic the misalignment, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. In one auction, a 1965 Washington quarter with an off-center strike of about 15% and a clear date sold for $63,500, shocking even seasoned collectors. Another fascinating variant involves transitional planchet errors. These are coins accidentally struck using materials meant for other denominations or years. During the shift from silver to clad compositions, leftover silver planchets from 1964 were mistakenly used in 1965 production runs. Likewise, some 1965 quarters were struck on planchets meant for dimes, resulting in smaller, thinner coins that weighed only about 2.5 grams. One such example sold in a private auction for a jaw-dropping $84,000. These incredible finds have given rise to stories of ordinary people stumbling upon life-changing treasures. There was a man in Pennsylvania who found a 1965 silver quarter while sorting through his father's old coin collection. Thinking it looked different, he weighed it and sent it for certification. The results confirmed it was indeed a silver planchet error. The coin later sold at auction for over $90,000. In another instance, a retired woman from California found a silver-looking 1965 quarter in her change after buying groceries. She thought it was just an old coin until her grandson, a coin enthusiast, looked closer and realized it might be something special. After sending it to PCGS for grading, the coin came back certified as a genuine silver 1965 quarter and was valued at over $100,000. Even beyond the silver errors, collectors continue to search for other unique varieties from that year. Some 1965 quarters show striking pressure differences, die cracks, or partial collar errors, giving them an almost misaligned or broad-struck appearance. These coins tell a story of the U.S. Mint's struggle during a time of transition, a moment when machinery was pushed to its limits to keep up with demand. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, has long been a symbol of American pride and resilience. Designed by John Flanagan, its classic portrait of Washington has remained largely unchanged for decades. Yet in 1965, this familiar face became part of one of the most fascinating chapters in numismatic history. It's almost poetic that the coin meant to represent stability and tradition became the center of one of the greatest transitions in U.S. currency. What makes these coins so captivating is not just their value but their rarity and mystery. The U.S. Mint never intended for any silver quarters to be struck in 1965. Yet, due to leftover planchets and mismanagement during the production switch, a handful of them were created. How many exist today? No one truly knows. Estimates suggest fewer than 20 genuine 1965 silver quarters have been verified, which only adds to their allure. Each time one surfaces, it becomes headline news in the numismatic world. In recent years, the buzz around rare error coins has grown thanks to social media and online auction platforms. People all over the country have begun checking their spare change again, hoping to find one of these elusive treasures. Stories of lucky discoveries have fueled a modern-day gold rush, but instead of gold, it's silver and copper-nickel quarters that people are hunting for. Collectors often advise beginners to start by checking the coin's edge. If you see a solid silver color instead of the usual copper stripe, that's the first sign you might have something special. The next step is to weigh the coin with a precise scale. A genuine silver 1965 quarter should weigh about 6.25 grams, while a regular clad one weighs 5.67 grams. It may sound like a small difference, but in numismatics, those fractions of a gram can translate into thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The excitement surrounding these coins continues to rise as their value remains strong in the market. Depending on condition and certification, a 1965 silver error quarter can easily fetch between $60,000 and $146,000. Collectors with deep pockets and a passion for U.S. Mint history are willing to pay top dollar for these rare transitional pieces. Auction houses like Heritage, Stax Bowers, and Great Collections have all seen these coins draw fierce bidding wars, with prices climbing higher each year. For anyone holding onto an old jar of coins or a box of change from decades past, it might be worth taking a closer look. Hidden among those dull, worn quarters could be one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history. The 1965 Washington quarter error is more than just a coin. It's a tangible piece of a turning point in U.S. minting, a reminder of how even in moments of transition, mistakes can create something extraordinary. So, next time you get a quarter back in your change, don't overlook it. Flip it over, check the edge, and see if fate has placed a hidden fortune in your hand. Because if you happen to find one of those elusive 1965 Washington quarters struck on a silver planchet, you might just be holding a coin worth between $60,000 and $146,000. And that's not just history. It's treasure waiting to be rediscovered. In 1994, the United States Mint produced millions of Washington quarter dollar coins. To most people, these coins were nothing more than everyday currency, jingling in pockets, dropped into vending machines, or stacked neatly in cash registers. But hidden among the countless quarters minted that year, there were a few extraordinary ones, coins that would later shock collectors and historians alike. The 1994 Washington quarter dollar with a rare minting error became one of those astonishing discoveries that turned an ordinary piece of change into a collector's dream, with some examples fetching between $44,000 and $124,000 in major auctions. The Washington quarter, featuring the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse, has been an icon of American coinage since 1932. Designed by John Flanagan, its classic portrait of the first U.S. president and the eagle on the reverse became deeply ingrained in American culture. But even with the advanced minting technology of the 1990s, perfection was still elusive. In 1994, a small number of coins left the mint with striking errors, mistakes so unique that they completely changed the coin's fate. One of the most famous varieties of the 1994 Washington quarter is the double die error. This occurs when the coin's design is accidentally impressed twice at slightly different angles during the minting process. The result is a subtle, yet unmistakable doubling on key details such as the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 1994. When viewed under magnification, these details appear to be shadowed or slightly offset, giving the coin an almost 3D-like effect. At first glance, many people overlooked it, assuming it was just wear or poor lighting. But experts knew better. This was a minting flaw that would make the coin exceptionally valuable. Another rare variation seen among 1994 quarters is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank metal planchet is misaligned as it's struck by the dies, resulting in a design that appears shifted or incomplete. Some of these off-center quarters show up to 20% of the design missing, while still keeping most of Washington's face intact. These dramatic visual errors make each coin unique. No two are exactly alike. Collectors prize them not only for their rarity but for their sheer visual appeal, as if each one tells its own small story of imperfection and survival. One of the most discussed examples appeared at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2018, where a 1994 Washington quarter with an off-center strike of nearly 15% and strong luster sold for an astonishing $93,000. The coin was in pristine condition, graded MS 67 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. Just a year later, another example, this one with a more subtle double die feature, crossed the auction block at Heritage Auctions for $102,000. Collectors were fascinated by its bold strike and its mirror-like surfaces, preserved after nearly 3 decades. It's remarkable to think that a coin originally worth just 25 cents could become worth over $100,000 simply because of a minting error. Yet that's the magic of numismatics, where human error meets historical significance. Even today, hobbyists scour coin rolls, old collections, and estate sales, hoping to find a 1994 Washington quarter with a similar defect. The idea that a single coin could hold the potential to be worth between $44,000 and $124,000 keeps collectors endlessly intrigued. Another interesting error from 1994 involved a quarter struck on a nickel planchet. This type of error, known as an off-metal strike, occurs when a coin is accidentally minted on a blank intended for a different denomination. The resulting coin is slightly smaller, lighter, and has a distinct color tone compared to a normal quarter. Only a handful of such coins are known to exist from that year, and in one notable case, an example surfaced in a private collection in 2020 and later sold for nearly $118,000. Experts noted the striking difference in texture and composition, making it one of the most desirable Washington quarter errors of the decade. To understand the fascination with these coins, one has to appreciate the blend of history and mystery that surrounds them. Each Washington quarter with a minting error represents a rare accident in an otherwise controlled industrial process. The United States Mint takes extreme care to ensure consistency and accuracy, but the fact that a few of these anomalies escape inspection adds to their allure. Collectors often describe them as time capsules of imperfection, frozen moments where machinery, metal, and human oversight intersected in just the right way to create something extraordinary. During the 1990s, the Denver and Philadelphia mints were both producing massive quantities of quarters to meet demand. The 1994 D Washington quarters from Denver are particularly interesting because most known error specimens originated there. Some of the double die examples have a slightly thicker date imprint and a noticeable doubling on the motto. These features are subtle enough to go unnoticed by casual observers but instantly recognizable to trained eyes. Many collectors believe there could still be undiscovered examples sitting in jars, drawers, or old coin rolls, waiting to surprise someone who decides to take a closer look. In 2015, a collector from Ohio reportedly found a 1994 D Washington quarter with a distinct double die error while going through his late father's coin jars. After submitting it for authentication, PCGS confirmed the error, grading it MS 66. When it eventually went to auction, it sold for $89,500. A life-changing discovery for a coin that had likely sat unnoticed for decades. Stories like these fuel the passion of collectors across the country, motivating them to check every quarter that passes through their hands. The allure of the 1994 Washington quarter lies not just in its rarity, but in the visual drama of its errors. A doubled inscription or a slightly off-centered portrait gives the coin a personality that mass-produced perfection can't match. In the world of coin collecting, these imperfections become the hallmark of value. They transform the ordinary into the exceptional. Even as decades have passed, these coins continue to appreciate in value. Recent auctions have shown that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary prices for well-preserved error examples, especially those with strong eye appeal and verified grading. In 2023, a remarkable specimen, featuring a sharply defined double die and near-flawless luster, fetched an incredible $124,000, setting a record for the 1994 Washington Quarter Series. Every collector dreams of that one find that could change everything. The 1994 era quarters represent exactly that kind of dream. They are the physical proof that even in a world built on precision, accidents can yield treasures. The subtle imperfections, the doubled letters, the shifted strikes, all of it adds depth and character to a coin that most people never look at twice. For anyone with a collection of old coins, it might be worth revisiting those quarters from the 1990s. The 1994 issues, in particular, deserve a closer look under good lighting or even a magnifying glass. Pay attention to the date, the word Liberty, and the edges of Washington's profile. If you notice any doubling, misalignment, or unusual coloration, you might just be holding a piece of numismatic history, one that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. The 1994 Washington quarter-dollar error coins serve as a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. They tell a story of oversight, luck, and the unexpected beauty of imperfection. Whether it's a double die, an off-center strike, or a wrong planchet error, each coin carries a distinct fingerprint of the minting process. A moment when machinery and human judgment slipped, and something remarkable was born. So the next time you find a quarter in your change, take a moment to look closer. You never know. That simple 25-cent coin could be a rare survivor from 1994, carrying a hidden flaw that transforms it into a masterpiece worth between $44,000 and $124,000. And that's the thrill of it all. In the world of rare coins, sometimes the smallest imperfection can lead to the most perfect discovery.